there is your lesson for the day. You just have to turn around and run away. Do what the Russians did. Yes?
Isn't that the same thing that happened to Hitler?
Yes. This is, so one of the questions I asked Fourth Hour was that yesterday I described Napoleon as one of the biggest military geniuses of our time. However, he was told repeatedly before he went in that he needed to be out before winter. He had to go. And he ignored all of the advisors' advice and he just kept on going. So I'm not a military genius, but you would think that that makes sense. Why wouldn't he get out? It seems common sense. Why would you even need anybody to tell you that? Why didn't he just go? Pride. Remember yesterday, he comes from a military background. He is a soldier. Do soldiers turn around and run? Well, Russian soldiers turn around and run. But Napoleon and the French did not. It was a prideful thing. And so this, then by the time Hitler comes around, not only is it common sense, but history has shown that you don't want to be stuck in Russia in the middle of winter. And Hitler stayed. And what happened to Hitler? Yeah. So same thing. People know better, but they just continue to do it anyway. So now the French army is incredibly weakened because he went into Russia with 600,000 men. He's only going to come out with 30,000. Now remember, he had close to 1 million men in his army, but now he's lost more than half. So now a new coalition is going to form against Napoleon. They're going to take advantage of him when he's at his weakest, which is after the invasion of Russia. And this new European coalition called the Quadruple Alliance is going to form against Napoleon. The Quadruple Alliance consists of Austria, Russia, Prussia, and Great Britain. Austria, Prussia, Russia, and Great Britain. They form the Quadruple Alliance. So they're going to form the European coalition in 1814 to go out and attack Napoleon. So this Quadruple Alliance is able to defeat Napoleon in 1814, and he is going to be exiled to an island called Elba. He's defeated. He's sent to an island called Elba, which is off the coast of Italy. And he is given the title Emperor of Elba, and he's given an army while he's there, and he's paid 2 million francs a year by the Quadruple Alliance to live there. This doesn't sound bad, right? Why not just kill him?
Because he had followers.
Okay, because he had a significant amount of followers. The other European countries might not have liked him very much, but the French people loved him. So they have to be careful in how they handle Napoleon, because they don't want to have France uprise and try to go to war again.
What was his title while he was here?
Emperor. He was called the Emperor of Elba. Do you think that is sufficient for Napoleon? How many of you would like to be living off the coast of Italy? Right? How many of you would like to be paid $2 million a year to be living off the coast of Italy? I think most of us would be happy with that situation. Napoleon was not. He's the Emperor of Elba. He's got several thousand troops under his command, but he went from being the Emperor of Europe to the Emperor of Elba. It's not really the same thing if you're Napoleon. It's not as good of a time as we might find it. All right, so the Congress of Vienna, the European settlement. The Congress of Vienna, we're going to be talking about different congresses in the next couple of chapters. A congress is a meeting. So the Congress of Vienna was a meeting of the Quadruple Alliance, and they are meeting where? Vienna. The Quadruple Alliance meets together at this Congress of Vienna to discuss a European settlement. Specifically, they're there to meet and discuss the fate of France. That's the point of this Congress of Vienna, this meeting. The Quadruple Alliance meets to discuss the fate of France. What are they going to do with France? Now, with the Renaissance, remember I told you, anytime you see Renaissance questions on an AP test, what word are you supposed to associate with Renaissance? Not rebirth. The rebirth of ancient Rome and Greece, which is referred to as the classics or classical. What about Adam Smith? What are the words you're supposed to associate with Adam Smith?
Competition.
Free trade or competition. With the Congress of Vienna, the words that you're supposed to identify with the Congress of Vienna is the balance of power. That's what the Congress of Vienna was trying to achieve. It is the balance of power principle in action. The Congress of Vienna is there to ensure peace. They're trying to avoid another war. They're not looking for a victory. They're not looking to go out and punish France, which is one of the reasons why Napoleon was treated so fairly and sent off to Elba. They are trying to keep peace throughout Europe. They're starting to understand, whereas before in Europe, war was no big thing, and countries liked going to war with one another. But by this point in time, they're starting to realize how badly war can affect a country politically, economically, socially. And so the point is to restore the balance of power, make sure a country like France doesn't become too powerful and take over everybody again, and keep the peace. That becomes what the Congress of Vienna is about. Are they successful? When's the next major war after this? World War I, which was 1914. Which, now, there were other wars in between, but as far as a major war goes, the Congress of Vienna was able to keep the peace and keep the balance of power restored in Europe for more than a century. So yeah, they were very, very successful in promoting the balance of power. So make sure that that's, and I think I told you before, the 1800s, this tends not to be everybody's favorite time period to talk about, and that's because the Congress of Vienna was so successful. There's no wars, nothing's happening. So we just talk about political things. And the Congress of Vienna, they're there to discuss the fate of France. Now that Napoleon has been exiled to Elba, they have to figure out who's going to be the new leader, so they decide to restore the Bourbon monarchy. So once again, France has a monarch. After all of the French Revolution and all of this, France is back to where it started with a constitutional monarchy.
So how were people okay with Napoleon being a monarch in France if they had just gotten rid of their monarch?
Well, technically he wasn't a monarch, although once he established his dynasty, that's essentially what he was. They liked Napoleon. The thing with the old monarch is that it wasn't necessarily that he was a monarch, but it was the way that he was holding on to the old way of life. Napoleon, with Napoleonic codes, ensuring equality, protection of property, that's what they wanted. So if the first monarch had done that, he probably could have stayed. Territorial adjustment. So Napoleon had completely changed the map of Europe, the face of the map of Europe. So now it's up to the Congress of Vienna to try to figure out the new boundaries, figure out the different territorial adjustments. So they're going to restore France to its original boundaries before Napoleon took power. The original French boundaries are going to be restored, and France is not going to have to pay any war reparations. Usually, whatever side just lost the war would have to pay reparations. The damages caused by the war, the losing side had to pay. They're not going to make France pay that. So you can see how lenient the Congress of Vienna is being towards France. That is not your cell phone, right? That you keep looking down at? I didn't think so, Jamie. So they restore France to its original boundaries. They don't make France pay any war reparations whatsoever. So once again, this is all in the name of keeping the peace throughout Europe. Not trying to seek revenge on France. And France was included at at the European settlement. They were a part of the discussion, which is going to be really important, and you'll see why, especially when we get to World War I and World War II. Because after World War I, when the Germans lost, they were not invited to attend the Versailles Treaty settlement. They were not there, they were not a part of it. Their fate was determined for them by the other European countries. So now you have a very angry Germany that has just lost a war, and now they're not part of the negotiation settlement. So what ends up happening?
They're resentful, so they
The
start
Second World War. Hitler is going to come to power. The people are going to like Hitler because he's mad at everybody else. They feel like it's everybody else's fault. And then you get a Second World War very quickly. I mean, very soon after the First World War, you had the Second World War because the peace treaty wasn't handled right. Here, it's all about kind of international relations and diplomacy, and France is included in the settlement talks, and everybody wins. Everybody's happy. However, during the Congress of Vienna, during the settlement, another war almost broke out between the European powers. You had Russia and Prussia on one side, and they had certain territorial demands that they wanted met. Because remember, they're trying to redraw the map of Europe. So Russia and Prussia had huge territorial demands that Austria and Great Britain did not want to give into. And so you have Russia and Prussia on one side, and Austria and Great Britain on the other. You have the four powers who are trying to achieve peace for the rest of Europe, about to turn on each other over land. And France ends up solving the problem by telling Austria and Great Britain, look, if you go to war with Russia and Prussia, we'll join your side. And there's no way Russia and Prussia can defeat all three of us. And Russia and Prussia eventually give in. Once they realize that France is going to join up with Austria and Great Britain, they understand that they're never going to defeat those countries. And they scale back their demands, and everybody's happy. All right, the last part of your notes, the 100 days and the Quadruple Alliance. So now you have the Bourbons restored to the French throne, and the new king is Louis XVIII. Who is he?
Louis XVI's grandson.
Good guess. Good guess. Good guess. Good guess. William male relative is what? Good guess. Brother. It's his brother. This is Louis XVI, the monarch who was beheaded during the French Revolution. Louis XVIII is his brother.
They named two of their kids Louis?
Huh?
They named two kids their name Louis?
No, it's just the royal name that he takes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're both given, you know, they have different birth names or whatever, but this will be the royal name they take. So, where's the 17th? And who is the 17th? We went from Louis XVI to Louis XVIII. What happened to the 17th? Huh?
Is it like an unlucky number so that we know it?
That's a good guess.
His son?
Huh?
His son?
It was his son, who was actually never king at all, but he would have been king had France not been a republic. But the son got put in prison with Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, and he eventually dies from disease, being malnourished, etc. He was beaten almost daily by the revolutionaries. So the kid died, and he was never king, but technically they're going to consider him the 17th. So you go from Louis XVI to now his brother, Louis XVIII, is ruling. He's very unpopular. The French people hate him. Remember, they love Napoleon. And they hate Louis XVIII. So Napoleon hears about how unhappy everybody is in France. And Napoleon escapes off the island of Elba, and he returns to France and rules for 100 days. When Louis XVIII hears that Napoleon has returned to France, he sends his troops out to go and capture Napoleon. Instead of capturing Napoleon, they join with Napoleon, because many of them had already fought with him before. So Napoleon is able to successfully come back and rule over France for